Welcome back to the Business Roundtable Podcast. Catching my breath here. I'm so excited. David Carr, founder of Steward Your Business, having a brand new guest, Rahul Prasad, to be on here with us today. We're going to get into a topic we haven't really covered before, and I'm excited about it, about your legacy and how do we have a greater impact in the world today. And so, Rahul, I just want to say thank you for being on the podcast with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. You have a great background. You've worked as a actual physicist, senior physicist in nuclear fusion, national laboratories. You've worked on very long-term, long horizon projects, high stakes projects. Now you're the president of Butterflies USA, and also a board chair of Amandal Development. Make sure I get that right. But and you're helping in a different way, in a different capacity than your professional journey. And I know we're going to unpack that. You're the author of a brand new book, Impact Shift 2. We'll unpack that as well. But I'm excited because from people that have been very successful in the world, you're kind of turning it around a little bit, and you're saying, well, that's success in a way, but we're kind of redirecting and getting it to leading with intention and discipline and pivoting in a way, which I don't think always people consider. So I'm excited for you to kind of walk us through your journey and get into this of what does it mean to have a lasting legacy?
Thank you, David, for having me on the show, and thank you for that lovely introduction. So, as you said, I have been a physicist for a number of years, and it was in that journey while I was making these developments and working towards making nuclear fusion practicable, and it will in some point in time, and potentially will solve a lot of problems that humanity faces, but it may happen outside of my lifespan. And that was the reason why I decided to think about how I could actually make a change that I could also see. Not just something that future generations would see, but I would see as well, so that I kind of had an idea of what my legacy was going to be. And I dare say there are a lot of very successful individuals who have achieved a lot in their lives and have created a legacy, but they may find that there's something missing, something different that they want to do. Or maybe they just want a change and do something different. Change is daunting. Change is hard. Change, for change's sake, is generally speaking not a good idea. And that's not at all what I advocate. What I do advocate is moving a little bit at a time outside of your comfort zone, trying something new. Each time a change opportunity presents itself, instead of only asking the question, why should I do this? Ask the question, why not? If why not doesn't lead to an answer that says, this is dangerous, this is life-threatening, this could be immoral, this could be illegal, those ones don't touch, don't go anywhere near it. If the only reason when you say why not is, well, I've not done it before, then give it a try. A baby step, a micro pivot. By the way, this is also applicable if you're wanting to shift not just completely like I did from physicist to philanthropist, but if you want to shift slightly. You are a biologist and you're attracted by chemistry and you want to become a biochemist. Well, you're not going to do it by just staying a biologist. And you're also not going to do it by one fine day applying for a biochemist job and expecting to get it. You're going to have to make those little switches that are required to take you through. So it's equally applicable. Micro pivots is what I like to call them. Instead of pivoting all the way.
I think that's great, Ro. It's making those like 1 degree adjustments at times. I mean, not to say there aren't big pivots, but it's kind of like, I was literally doing a planning today and going through things, and we're saying, using a sports analogy of baseball, it's like a lot of people try to get the home run versus just getting on base over time. And then you can see, is this the direction that I want to go, or do I not? Is it not in alignment, to your point? And I work with a lot of people, like you said, Rahul, that are scientists, that myself, biologists, and I moved and created Steward Your Business over 4 years ago. But it wasn't overnight. It was like I saw my strength in leading people, developing people, and I did it consistently. And I'm like, okay, this makes sense. To your point, I think that's so important, because some people hold back and they're like, well, I'm just going to one day I'll do this.
Mhm.
But they're not living that right now as part of their life.
Right.
And so it's really hard to go from, like you said, that big jump is what I'm hearing. And so you did this over
Yes.
time where you were doing work, and then you said, okay, what if I try this differently? What would this look like? And been successful. I mean, you've been with Butterflies USA for I think over 13 years now.
Yes,
And
that's exactly right.
So I mean, that's tremendous.
And I started with Butterflies 13 years ago, but I didn't give up being a physicist until 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a period of time I was doing both. So that's where I said it's that micro pivot, that
Mm-hmm.
trying it on for size. Does this work for you? The ability to say yes. So in my case, it started just thinking in terms of doing work with others or for others, for volunteering my time. Actually started when I got a letter from the Yale University Graduate School Alumni Association back in the year 2000 asking if I would like to volunteer. Not thinking much about it, I wrote back saying, yes, I will. Nothing happened. 2 years later, I'm just started on my new job at Lawrence Livermore National Lab, working on the nuclear fusion project, extremely excited when the phone rings. And a person who says he's the chair of the Graduate School Alumni Association says to me, hey, you expressed interest. We have a person on our board that cannot complete his term. He has to leave. We have a 2-year term left. That's 2 meetings in New Haven. Would you like to take his place? And the immediate thought in my mind was, why not? I've just started a new career. My kids have gotten older. I can take a few days off. I can go back to New Haven. I haven't been back since I graduated, which has been almost 20 years at that time. And I said, this is a great opportunity. Let me do it. I said, yes. And that led to volunteering in the Graduate School Alumni Association, then for the University Alumni Association, and has led to an almost 3 decades long volunteer career that I have with Yale University. Along the way, I got a call from another friend who says, hey, I have this video. The street children in India, they are speaking, and I have a translation, but the translation doesn't seem to add up. Can you help me? I know you speak Hindi. That's the language they're speaking in this video. Could you help me? I said, absolutely, I will. Met him, listened to the video, found out the translation was not terribly accurate, fixed it. At the end of it, he says, hey, I like the sound of your voice. Would you like to be the narrator? I said, oh, well, I've never narrated before. He said, and the problem is? And that why not question came up. Why not? Outside my comfort zone, I've never narrated anything in my life other than reading a book, a bedtime story to my kids or something like that. Or participating in high school drama, which I did. And so I started doing it. And that was 10 years ago. And now I am the voice of Butterflies, in addition to having, over the course of time, become the president of Butterflies. And it was little by little increasing the involvement and seeing the impact of the work that we were doing, raising money for street children in India, and then visiting Butterflies in India, talking to the children, and seeing what a difference this organization was making in their lives. They run a cooperative bank where the street children can save their money because they can't open a regular bank account. They don't have an address, therefore no bank account. It's a simple fact of life. But keeping money on their persons, living on the street, they get robbed. Everybody knows what payday is, and the bad actors figure, we've got marks that have money, go rob them. So they set up this cooperative bank, and the kids run the bank with supervision from the workers at Butterflies. And I got to talking to one of the kids, and he says, well, I'm the bank manager. And I said, oh, what does that mean? And he tells me what his duties are and all the rest of it. And I said, well, so, when you finish with Butterflies, what are you going to do? And when you get your high school degree, say, I'm going to go to college. I said, oh, that's very good. Well, what are you going to do after you finish college? He said, I'm going to go become a bank manager. And I said, and why do you think they would take you? So, because I have experience. I'm a bank manager right now.
How
The
exciting.
impact that this organization made on that child's life A
Yes.
child growing up on the streets of New Delhi who had illiterate parents who could never have even dreamed of walking into a bank, leave alone leading it.
Mm. Wow.
That's the impact that I saw, which was real and in my lifetime.
Hmm. I
You
love
know,
that, Rahul.
and that's what kind of
Beautiful.
got me thinking about it. It's like a line that I heard on a TV show. I forget what show it was, but anyway, it was a TV show, and this one person tells another person, "It's better to give with a warm hand than a cold one."
Hmm. Hmm.
And it struck me there and then, a warm hand, as in while you're alive, to give,
Mm.
to help somebody. You can see what impact you're having. You can leave your money or you can
Yeah.
leave whatever it is to get after you're dead and gone, but then you don't get to see what happened with it.
Yes. Yes. No, I think it's beautiful. I love the question about why not. There's a lot of people when I say why not, but they say, who am I to do this? Who am I to go there? Can you
Mhm.
speak where you got to this? I mean, and I totally hear, Ro, you're a very humble person, and you're very, but a lot of people, they don't think they're worthy. They don't feel like they have enough to contribute. And you talked about your narration. Can you talk about how you overcame that, and how others can get through that objection or resistance?
Mhm. I think that absolutely right. I think most of us at one point in time or another feel what you're talking about, which is commonly referred to as the imposter syndrome.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know, we really don't belong. We are not here. We didn't earn this. We didn't achieve this. It's a common fear. And I think the only way to overcome it is to try. Try
Hmm.
it in a safe area. So
Hmm.
before I said yes to the narration, I said, well, let me just go ahead. I went off and I said, I'll get back to you tomorrow. And I came home and I took out my iPhone, turned on the voice recorder, and picked up a book and read for a minute, turned it off, and I listened to myself. I said, well, that doesn't sound half bad. That was with no practice whatsoever.
Hmm.
So I think I could do this. Build up your confidence.
Yes. Yes.
That's the way to do it. If you're presented with an opportunity, say yes,
Mm.
because self-censorship is probably the worst kind of censorship. If you, the world's going to tell you when you're not adequate. Trust me, it's a mean place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why add yourself into
Right.
that
Mhm.
mix? Why
Mhm.
be your own? It's a natural thing to be your own greatest critic,
Yep.
but there's a time and a place for that.
Yep.
And there's a time and a place to say, okay, I'm going to do this because I think I can.
Mhm.
And it's that convincing of yourself because you don't see a reason why you should not, other than somebody told you you can't do this.
Mhm.
We got
Mhm.
always have our parents in our heads,
Yeah.
mom and dad telling you you can't do this. And the reason why they're trying to tell you that when you're a kid is because if you do it, you might get hurt
Yes.
one
Yeah.
way or another. And they're trying to keep you alive.
Mhm. Mhm.
Perfectly good reasons for them to say that. But at the same time, it's something that gets embedded in our heads then. And we've got to work to get out of that because if we didn't take a leap of faith, if we didn't take a risk,
Mhm.
where would we be as a species today?
Yes. Absolutely. No, I mean, you're right on, and I work with a lot of folks in my company, Steward Your Business, Row, that they are self-limiting and like, "Oh, I don't know if I could be a leader. I don't know if I could go in this place." But the world needs all of us, like you said, to take those chances, just take the yes. Will we get it right every time? No.
No.
But what I hear you saying, Earl, is you find a community that is supporting you. Butterflies USA, they needed you. The university needed you. They said, look, they want you to succeed. They don't want to
Yes,
see you fail. So you surround
absolutely.
yourself with people that want to, and they have grace and they're sharing that passion of serving, and like the kids on the street in New Delhi, amazing that you're doing this. You're like, hey, we're not always going to get it right, but we're striving, and I think be a part of something bigger than yourselves,
Exactly.
which led to you to creating this book, Impact Shift, which, by the way, we're going to put the link for all of you guys that are listening in. You're going to go get it online, and we'll make sure that's in the show notes. But talk to me about, you had this journey, and now you actually put it down into a book so that we could understand what it's like for you know that we achieve success in most people haven't achieved probably the success of working in a national lab, being a physicist, doing the things you've been doing, but you know, realizing that there was something else, like you said, something else others needed, and I could see the tangible effects of me doing that. Talk a little bit about what you know, your this journey of writing the book and now getting this out there to the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, as you mentioned, my LinkedIn bio, well, that has everything that I've done so far, including then a mandala development, which started because a mutual friend of ours referred the founder of a mandala to me, saying he's done work with butterflies, raising money in the US for children in India. You're setting up a mandala in South Africa. He can help you. And so I got to meet with him in San Francisco. 45-minute meeting turned into 90 minutes, at the end of which he said, I've learned so much from you, but I'd really like you to help me set this up in the US. And so I got involved setting up a board and became board chair and working on that. So that's all in my LinkedIn bio. And in December of 2024, a person asked me, so have you thought of writing a book? And I said, no. And they asked, why not? That same little question. And I had no good answer for it. And they said, well, I can put you in touch with a publisher and tell your story and see if they're willing to publish it. That happened in early January of 2025. And they said, yep, if you can write it, we'll publish it. And I sat down to write it. And the whole book is about impact shift, the art of pivoting for meaningful change. What it's all about is my life, number one, and how I got to where I am and everything that I learned along the way. With then a how-to for somebody else that wants to try something similar. So how I did what I did, how you can do what I did, how I overcame the obstacles that were placed in front of me, how you can do the same thing in simple, I like to say, conversational language. And so that got written, went into editing. We're in the final stages now, and it will be released on February 2, which again, I think is pretty darn good.
Yeah, I mean, we're recording this here middle of January, and a year later, and you've got the book out. That's honestly, I think that's great, especially having never written a book, putting it out there. And to me, I'm so excited because I talk particularly my background as a biologist, scientist, I think sometimes we get stuck in, not in a bad way, we're trying to do all these things and achieve these things, and they're good things. But like you said, you can do this in parallel too, and start to think in like, how would that legacy look like? What would that be? Because I think sometimes people do feel stuck, and they're feeling like they're doing quote unquote the right things in their career. And this is a way of like maybe getting them unstuck, or, that's what I'm hearing you say, Rahul, is like,
exactly.
Your journey of like, hey, you're not the only person, you're not alone here in this. There's a lot of people, and here is a way that you can actually have and see your lasting impact.
Exactly. And I think it also is useful, even if you're not thinking in terms of changing because you want to make an impact and you've done something amazing, now you want to do something different. It could also be because what felt like it was something amazing yesterday no longer feels like it's something amazing today. That happens. Things change, organizations change, our own mindset changes. And what made us happy yesterday or day before yesterday may not make us happy today.
Yeah.
So how do you go about taking that step? Just jumping off the deep end, that's a way to do it. But it's not comfortable to do it that way. And it is very daunting. Most people are not going to take that leap. They're not going to be a biologist one day and a business leader the next.
Right.
It comes in stages. As you rightly pointed out yourself, David, you found during your course of work as a biologist that helping people grow was something that made you tick.
Yes.
So you were helping colleagues grow. You were helping people who worked for you grow. You were, I dare say, even helping people who were your managers or your bosses grow in your own way. And you said, well, that's what's making me more happy than the work I'm doing as a biologist. So you made the shift.
Yeah.
A very, very similar thing to what I did.
Yes.
I started by working with the children. With my alumni work, it was not with children, but
Hmm.
it was with young adults who
Right.
were needing to get out into the world. They were going to start careers. Having done a successful career, I freely mentored students. I've mentored hundreds by now. And then I discovered, well, when they figure out what makes them tick, and I've helped them in that journey, that was that aha moment that made me smile. And then I saw this with the kids in butterflies and the kids now in Amandla. And I then realized, hey, this is much more important to me. So instead of doing this part-time, I'm just going to make that final push. I'm going to take retirement from the lab, and I'm going to do this as what I want to do for the rest of my life.
I love it. One of the things as I was reading and preparing for our podcast, Rahul, was in the book, and I'm going to make sure I get this right. You had a formula or a framework, if you will, that I saw that was this PIP. It was like your passion, purpose, and impact, and how that can lead to meaning and legacy. Can you break that down for me, so for our audience? Because I think this is very, as I was looking and reading that, I'm like, oh wow, this is a different way of putting it together. So would you share that with our listeners?
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
first thing, being a physicist, formula my bread and butter, right? E is equal to mc squared. There's so many of them, and so I kind of like to put everything in that framework. It just helps me break things down. It's just the way in which I process information. But the one thing which I've always learned is, if you have a purpose and you use that purpose and you have a passion for something that you want to do, when you put those two things together, you get good at it. When you get good at something, you make an impact. And therefore, the purpose and impact and passion. And when you get good at something, you're going to do something successfully. And when you do successfully, it's going to make an impact around the world, and it's going to create meaning. When you've created meaning, you're going to have created your legacy, because people will remember you for that. What is your legacy at the end of the day? It's how people remember you.
Yes.
As Maya Angelou once talked about this, you might forget what I say, but you will not forget how I made you feel.
Yes.
That's her legacy. Making, the impact she has on the individuals is, how did you feel after you had a conversation with me, after you read a book that I wrote, after you heard me speak, whatever way in which you interacted with her. And I think that's really what it boils down to. Having that passion, using that passion for a purpose, creates the impact, which then produces, putting all those three things together, that produces the meaning and legacy in your life.
Well, I love, you brought up earlier, the passion is what energizes you. And what I think
Exactly.
is, I think it's important, because you made a great statement earlier that you were passionate about being a physicist, and you enjoyed it, and there was nothing wrong. But I think sometimes, our passion, like you said, can shift. And sometimes we feel like I should still have the passion for this for whatever reason, because I was really good at it, I had an impact. But there's a point where that kind of is like a season, right? That season is done. And can you talk about the closure or the transition of when you finally said, I'm going to go full time? And did you feel a shifting in your passion? Was it like, because I want people, what I am asking this question, I want people to kind of, in their mind, can they start to have a temperature gauge, if you will, to start to feel what does that look like, and pay attention. What did you see? What was that? What was coming up for you in that?
So passion, I think, is an interesting thing, because I still have passion for science. I still have passion for physics. I still read voraciously about everything that's going on. I keep up to date. What happens, and I think the shift, and this is a shift that a lot of people feel, is you start with a passion that makes you forget all the bad stuff that happens during the day. When you do anything, there's good and there's bad.
Sure.
Initially, when you start in a career with a lot of passion, because you have passion for the field, that passion helps mask the stuff that isn't pleasant. the stuff that you'd rather not have happen. As one gets older, the passion does dim a little bit, and it isn't able to overcome the bad days. And when you start finding that you're not excited, and that's what was when I decided to shift. I wasn't excited to go to work because I was not dwelling on the side that was feeding my passion, which is the positives.
Right.
I was dealing with the negatives. The fact that there was uncertainty in the funding climate, the fact that there were people that were not as intelligent as I thought they should be for the positions they were occupying. My opinion, nobody else's. But it
Right.
made me feel like, oh, do I really have to do this today? And that was the point in time when it occurred to me, okay, that's it. Enough of this. I might as well use my energies for something constructive rather than something destructive.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I mean, as you say that, I think I'm just reflecting back in this rule of my college days and the professors that were very passionate about what they love doing, and they're the ones that just got sick and tired of the politics and the all the shenanigans that had to happen. And you could tell the difference in the professors that were passionate and loved what they were doing and people that were kind of just coming in and checking in. And at a certain point, nobody else wants to live that way, but there's a certain point where there's I guess there's like I want to get into like the leap of moving between what's known, and I can stay with what's known even though it's not great, or it's okay, it's fine, it's good, it's not bad, but moving from and I think that's almost harder when you're kind of comfortable, when you've got some success. Even when I talk to business owners, they've achieved some success, so now they're playing not to lose.
Exactly.
Defensively, and so they're trying. So it's almost like you kind of numbed yourself to a certain degree, and I don't even as I'm saying this, Rahul, because scientists, the classic frog in the boiling pot of water. The water is it doesn't jump out because there's a kind of a new normal. So if you're not paying attention, and you're paying attention, but sometimes we can be in this place where maybe way too long we've allowed it just to kind of simmer and stay in this place.
Yep.
You talk exactly. A little bit about that.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think your sports analogy is perfect. You have so many teams that will amass in the first half or the first period or first quarter, what have you, a big lead, and then they say, well, this is ours to lose. And now they start playing not to lose. And those are the teams that almost always lose. Because the other team gets it. They figure it out that these guys are not going to attack. All they're doing is defense. Well, you're never going to win by just playing defensively. And it's the same is true with life. So yes, and this is exactly what happens. I think what you said about professors, having the same issue where it's very comfortable. You're getting a salary, you get paid, you get to do what you like to do. It's not terribly hard work because you've taught this class 10 times before. The 11th and the 12th and 13th is not that much more work at all. But it's numbing. And you're shuffling your feet.
Yes.
You're dragging your feet to get to work. The person that used to show up well before the allotted time is now coming in late. You see this amongst your employees if you run a business. And those are the people who it's time to have a conversation with, not to tell them that they're not doing their job right.
Right.
But to actually help them, like you're helping people, David, help them understand that they're not playing to win. And that's what's going to actually make the organization lose.
Yeah.
So it actually is something which, mindful business leaders should actually be using with their employees to help them grow.
Yes.
And if that growth is in their own organization, wonderful. But if that growth is going to come outside the organization, it's actually better for the leaders to say and help them achieve this growth elsewhere, because that's going to clear the way for new people to come in.
Yes.
And new energy to come in and the organization to grow. It's what we do with trees. You don't prune a tree just because you want to kill it.
Yeah.
You prune a tree because it's going to look better next year. It's going to bear more fruit. It's going to bear better quality fruit.
Yes. Yes, I love that too. And it goes back to your question of why not. I think this has come up in past podcasts. We've talked about kind of the gap in the game, Earl. And
Mhm.
so so when you say why not, and I think there is a cost involved when you say
Mhm.
yes, you're just saying you're saying no to something else. And so speak to a little bit about that. In some, we got a little bit there, but I think again, helping people to see what the possibility is what I work with folks too, of what could be instead of what I'm losing
Mhm.
or giving up, you know?
Yes.
Because you haven't
So,
realized yet. You haven't realized, but you know your success. So you
yep.
don't know what you've now seen with Butterflies USA and the
Mhm.
impact you've had. You're like, I think this could happen. But talk a little bit about that.
I think you're absolutely right. I think, yes, there is definitely, and as business leaders, we're trained to always ask the question, if I'm going to do this, what am I not doing?
Mm-hmm.
And that's equally important. And yes, it is, because there is a finite number of hours in every day.
Mm-hmm.
So true. But at the same time, if you don't open your mind to the innovative ideas, you're only going to do more of the same.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at any successful business, they grow by changing, by pivoting, by
Mm-hmm.
making micro pivots. They don't necessarily, car manufacturer doesn't suddenly start to make computers or vice versa. But then again, even that happens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's
Yep.
that's the reason why I picked those two. And,
Yeah.
and that wouldn't happen if the leaders hadn't said, okay, we're going to try this, and it's going to cost. It's going to cost. But there's a benefit at the other end. So it's the cost benefit analysis shouldn't just stop at I am doing this, and instead of doing this, I'm doing that, and
Mm-hmm.
therefore I'm not doing this. That's the cost. Well, that is the immediate cost.
Right.
But the benefit isn't if I just continue with what I'm doing, I'm going to get incremental, marginal benefit. But if I do
Mm-hmm.
this new thing, there's a potential that I'll go up by multiples, five
Yes.
times, 10 times, 100
Right.
times.
Right.
That's the reason. That's the mindset to overcome that. Yes, you're doing something different, so you're not doing something that you're doing today. But what that is doing for you is giving you the opportunity for growth.
Yes.
And you're seizing on that opportunity.
Yeah, no, I think that's so important, and I think when there's resistance to that, or people saying, "Well, why?" Like you said, there's a cost, but what is that greater vision? And I think I like your other word that you said. We talk about passion, but purpose. Because I like, at least for me, when I hear that purpose, that's a filter of like what's coming toward me, the opportunities that are coming toward me, and what is in alignment. So your purpose, you were serving as a nuclear physicist. You were
Mhm.
absolutely serving. You're developing, but you took your purpose of who you are as a person, role, and then you pivoted that. Can you talk
Exactly.
about that to people? Because I don't know if people can always articulate what their purpose is or their personal why or why they exist. And so anything that comes to them, you could say why not, but is it in alignment with your purpose or your calling, if you will? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. So, you know, being a scientist, being a fan of history,
Mhm.
I read a lot about famous scientists of the past. And one
Yeah.
of the things that Albert Einstein once said was, it is the duty of every person to put in more into the world than he takes from it,
Mhm.
or something to that effect. I'm
Yeah.
paraphrasing at this point. And that stuck with me. I read this many, many years ago as a teenager, and that stuck with me that it is my duty to put in more than I'm taking.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's how we grow humanity as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that being a physicist, working for science, I wasn't really putting in as much as I was taking.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that this other passion of mine, the disadvantaged children, working with them, would help speed up that process of putting more back
Yes,
into
I
the
love that.
system than I was taking out. So
Mm-hmm.
leaving the world a better place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you can do it in many, many, many different ways. There is no one answer. There's no one size fits all. At the end of my book, when I ask people to go out and do something good, I say, you can, of course, I would love for you to support my organizations,
Mm-hmm.
Butterflies and Amandla, but that doesn't have to be it. If what you would like to do is something else, and I've actually done a fair amount of research finding for people organizations that do work in different fields. And I've
Mm-hmm.
listed them all there as a way to encourage people to say, okay, let me go out and try something new. Let me
Yes.
go out and do something not for the sake of personal gain,
Mm-hmm.
but for the sake of helping others, which actually does have a personal gain. It is not a monetary gain, but it is a mental gain. It's an emotional gain. It's a spiritual gain because you feel better as a person for having helped someone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I correct me if I'm wrong on this, because but I think that when we experience that giving and coming in that place, there's that oxytocin. That's a bonding hormone, right? I
Mhm.
think they've even done studies. If you even see somebody helping somebody else, it actually you can release that in your own brain, even though you're not doing a
Yes,
part of it. Yeah.
exactly.
You know.
Absolutely. I think that's absolutely true. I saw that and got involved with helping an organization that gives showers to homeless people. So during the pandemic, I'd taken my dogs to the vet and they weren't letting me in. So I had to sit in the car. And in Oakland, they had this shower set up and a bunch of tables where people could come and, first of all, they talked to somebody who explained to them what this program was and what was going on. And they gave them clothes, they gave them underwear, they gave them toiletries, and they
Mm-hmm.
gave them a shower. And you see these people walking in looking like broken down individuals, walking past this whole thing, going in the shower and coming out a new person.
Mm-hmm.
Not just cleaner, but holding themselves taller, head up, held high. Now, that's a person who I see when they find the possibility of a job, they'll walk in and say, I want to apply for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whereas before this transformation had taken place, they wouldn't have walked in to get a job because when you look like you're homeless, everybody knows nobody's going to want to employ you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that becomes the filter, even though they've got all the characteristics needed for that job. And
Right.
just watching this happen made me feel so energized and so happy in some ways that I immediately went back. When I came back, I put the name that I had got off the truck into the web browser, found out where they were, asked them what help they needed. And they said, well, we're looking for, single-use toiletries. And I said, well, I know a way to get that. I love to travel. I love to collect these little things. I'll collect them and bring them to you.
There you go. Beautiful.
And so, I'd always pick up the little toiletry case that's offered complimentary, which, if you're not going to take, they're going to throw away because it's been
Mm-hmm.
opened, it's been touched. There's a good use for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny you say, Rahul, you say that there's a charity on wheels here in Southern California. That's what we would do. We'd pack up these toiletry groups and help individuals, and to your point, what I really feel like you mentioned earlier was getting this, I would say, healing identity work of who you are from the inside out. Because one of the things we talked about before we recorded this episode that it really resonated with me, and I see a lot of people, particularly younger people, looking externally for validation, looking to get something from the world externally, which I feel in my journey and my own walk there's never enough. And you can't find that peace within yourself, no matter what you're chasing down, achieving titles, money, whatever those things are. It's not lasting. You get it
No.
there for a moment, you're like, oh my goodness, I did this. And then it's like, I need something else. And
Yep.
and what I hear you saying is you're coming from a place of abundance. You're coming from a place of living a purpose of, I get to give, I get to come because I'm filled up. I have a place where I want to pour into others. And I think that's just a totally different way of living and being, which I
Yes.
think is a blessing. You're blessed in being a blessing to other people.
Well, thank you. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for saying that. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's true. I think it's one of those things, early on, I discovered that, it was actually when I was a student at Yale and
Mm-hmm.
I'd be driving on the freeways in Connecticut, and they were not freeways then, they had tolls.
Mm-hmm.
And they had toll collectors and these machines where you dumped in your coin or you gave it to the toll collector. And I remember driving up, it was the first time this happened to me. I drove up to the toll collector and I've got my dollar bill for the toll. I hand it to the collector and she says, no, the guy in front of you paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
And that little act, random kindness, it made me feel like, oh my God, I could do this. So I handed her my dollar bill and said, "No, you cover the two behind me."
Look at that. That is what you're upping the game, you know? That's
Well,
amazing.
it's what happens, right? I guess
Yeah.
he handed a dollar bill. He got his 50 cents back. He didn't want it back. He said, "Pay for the next one."
Uh-huh.
And so I
Yes.
said, "Okay, you pay." And that's the paying
Going
forward.
forward. Yes.
That's really the whole name of the game. And that's, kindness is something which happens to you. And I think the more kind you are to people, the
Mm-hmm.
kinder the world is to you.
Yes.
It's not a resource that you can exhaust. You
Mm-hmm.
might not find that the people you're being kind to are the ones that are being kind to you.
Right.
But there's an overarching, there's some form of balance
I
that
agree.
exists in the universe. And the kinder person you are, the nicer you are, the more giving you are, the more you'll be treated with kindness. I think it depends. It's sort of the way in which you talk to people. It's the way you
Mm-hmm.
present yourself. If you talk to somebody who is in a position to irritate you, but you're actually not getting irritated, and you're actually, when they finish helping you, you actually say a kind word to them and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, thank you for helping me." Customer service people come to mind. It's amazing how you make them feel, because every time I've done that and I've complimented them and they've said, they've been apologizing along the way. It's sorry it's taking so long. And I said, no, you're doing your job. And then nice, kind word. And invariably they'll tell me, "That's the nicest thing anybody's said to me in such a long time."
Mm-hmm.
But I dare say that that same person, when the next person calls, is going to be doubly happy to help,
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
because they feel that they were seen.
Yeah.
We all want to be seen.
We all want to be seen. Absolutely. And it just takes that slowing down a little bit, Rahul, coming from that place of, like you said, observing and caring for people, showing true, genuine kindness. That's why we started the Business Roundtable podcast, was a way of showing we want to bring value, we want to bring people to the world that would say, hey, look, there's somebody that cares, there's somebody has something that wants to offer you. We're not asking for anything in return here. We love, obviously, hearing feedback and people liking and subscribing. All that stuff is great. But the point was, when I created the podcast, now we're going to be going on our third year this year, was as a way of reaching and sharing to the world. And now, to your point, Rahul, you've got amazing people like you on the podcast here, and we've had just some amazing guests as we're lining up. In fact, I can't keep up with all the great guests. It's a lot of fun, it's a good problem to have. But that's the abundance that comes from this when we start to live in that and the opportunity.
Yes.
So if we can start to shift. And I guess that's my, as I know, I want to go longer, but we're getting into the podcast here. I want to encourage you to share with the listeners, if someone is feeling, and they've listened to this today, Rahul, and they're like, okay, I need to do something, I need to move here, and maybe they feel frozen, what would you suggest to them, a step that they can take this week after they listen to the podcast, so that they can move forward, like you said, make that micro pivot?
Yes. I think it's a very simple one. Figure out what are you thinking is missing in your life? Or figure out something that you might want to try because you haven't tried it before. And then try it. Try a single step. You've had this dream that you've wanted, you're doing your work, but you've always thought, wouldn't it be nice if I could write a piece of fiction? Well, sit in front of the computer and write the first line. It's not going to be the best first line. It's probably not going to be the first line that'll be in your book by the time you finish it. But I guarantee you, if you write the first line, the second one will come really easy. And if you write that second one, the third one goes even quicker. And I'm speaking from experience.
Yes.
Having never written a book before. Well, I did write my PhD thesis. So I guess that sort of kind of counts, but that's completely different. That's jargon.
Yes.
And it's meant for a very, very tiny audience.
Well, so as everyone's listening in here, this is great, Ro, that please, you guys can go check out Impact Shift. It's going to be on Amazon, and all you guys can find it there. We'll make a link, make sure the links in the show notes. Ro and I are also connected on LinkedIn, so you can connect with us there. leadership isn't just about growing companies or careers. It's really about stewarding the gifts that you have, the experiences, the influence you've been given, and choosing how we use them. Rahul, I really want to thank you for putting language and structure around this, that so many leaders are maybe quietly asking, how do I show this? And I just want to say thank you again for just coming on the podcast. And it's been a real pleasure having you here.
Well, thank you, David. It has really been a pleasure being here, and I'm so happy to have come. Thank you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Of course, we all love you guys liking and subscribing and following along. Please do share with a friend, a colleague that may benefit from this. Come back and join us next time. Until then, be well, be kind, take care of everyone. Bye now.
Bye-bye.